Can we get in trouble for that?
Probably. Yeah. We're going to want to cut that.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, with the idea that we are probably going to cut the thing we can get sued for, welcome into the podcast, everybody. This is the 2 Decades Too Late podcast. I'm Brad, hanging out with Josh.
What's up?
This is the podcast where we review albums, mostly metal for whatever it's worth, that are turning 20 years old. We each assign a score of 1 through 5 on 4 different parameters, with a maximum score from each of us of 20 and a total score of 40. And this week we're doing a twofer. Thank you, Ryan, for bringing up the excellent point that Wintersun 2 was just announced, and we thought we were already going to do this. We already had this planned in this exact way, actually. But we decided to kick it up because of that, and this week we've got 2 albums, Ensiferum Iron and Wintersun.
That made that so anticlimactic.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, well, it'll fit into one of the categories, so I guess I'll hold off on that.
I'm sure.
Little nugget there, but we decided to combine these two. If you don't know, which is fair, because the Ensiferum Iron album was the last album to have Jari Maenpaa, and then he went to Wintersun, which is, as far as I can tell, initially just a solo project with a really good drummer, Kai Hato.
The dude's the man.
But that was the last. Oh God, he's so good. But yeah, that was it. The last Ensiferum album with him on it was Iron, and they both came out in the same year, 2004. So we figured neither band had much of a history. One had no history at the point of release. So we could probably fit them both in.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, actually, for one dude to release 2 albums in the same year, I feel like. Now, granted, he had been writing Wintersun since 1995, which is also when Ensiferum formed as well. So they've been active for 9 years at this point, and Jari was on all of it up until this point, including this point.
Yeah, he wrote some of the music on the eponymous Ensiferum record, way more on Iron, and you can tell if you listen to the 2 albums, they are very different. And like going forward with Ensiferum, you can tell that he's missing once you get to Victory Songs. I love Victory Songs. That was the first Ensiferum album I had heard, which made me immediately probably illegally download Iron.
Sweet.
In the same year, because I got Victory Songs when it came out in 2007, and when we get to the reviews, we'll probably have to...
I was wondering how this would come up, because I don't think I was hip to either of these albums anywhere near when they came out. Like, I don't really think like you and or I started getting into folk metal, if you can call at the very least Ensiferum that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Until around 2006, 2007, maybe even like I had a note about maybe even as late as 2008 with LVT and Innis Mona.
Yeah. I started getting into it in 2007 because it was the same year that Behold Eternity started, so I have a really easy like connector there. And I just want to, I guess, a little disclaimer for both of these albums. This is going to be tough for me to be objective on for either one of them, because I have not really talked about this, but in 2007 it was like maybe my second worst bout of depression in my life, and I never talked about it because, you know, at the time it was stupid to talk about. Don't do that, people. Talk about it. And this music strangely like got me out of it once I started down the folk metal rabbit hole and realized metal could be super heavy but super kind of upbeat and kind of makes you feel like you are victorious at the end of it in some strange
Hell
way.
yeah.
So both of these albums mean a great deal to me. The Wintersun album, and I don't know, I'm sure I've said this to you. I know I've said it to Ryan, which I know he'll be listening, but the Wintersun album is my favorite album of all time. So
nice. Again,
when we get into this, and if I sound like I'm fanboying and not being objective, that's because I am. And that's just going to be how this episode goes, probably, for my part.
That's interesting. So do you remember if you caught Wintersun before Ensiferum?
No, it was... So, Ensiferum Victory Songs was the first folk record I had heard. And then I got Iron... And then it was like the rabbit hole of why does Iron sound so much different than Victory Songs? Oh, because this guy left. Who is this guy? Oh, he started Wintersun. That's why he's not here. Then I got Wintersun. And
nice. I asked because...
I wasn't ready for that shit.
Yeah. I asked just because of some of the lyrical content on Wintersun, particularly with, I think, Death and the Healing. Jari was kind of like writing, well, through this period of 9 years of his life, writing about the darker times that he had. So I just wondered if like that connection kind of made... I didn't realize that he had part of his lung removed because he got tuberculosis while he was serving in the military.
Yeah. That man, I don't even know how to quantify that guy. Like, and like we went to see... Yeah, and we saw them in Cleveland, and he was what, like they walked by us, and he was like 6'5", or like I'm tall, and that dude, they walked by us, and I was just like, I couldn't even breathe for a second. I'm like, holy shit, that's Jari Maenpaa. But
that show was amazing,
unbelievable. Like,
was that with Keep of Kalessin? Was that the same show?
No, Keep of Kalessin was who was Keep of Kalessin with? We didn't even stay. Niall, yeah. Yeah, but no, it was Elvite and Wintersun. And
that was amazing.
Whoever opened was also really good.
Big, yeah.
Tony Hovader was at that show. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he was.
Weird.
That is weird.
Great show, though. What a piece of shit he turned out to be. Not turned out to be, he always was, just different version.
Who are we talking about?
Tony Hovader.
Oh, I thought you meant Obsidian Sea. I couldn't tell, but that was a different show.
Yeah. Man, Keep of Kalessin was good.
They were
very,
good.
Very good.
Amazing show.
I've never seen people windmill so fast for so long.
It was great. It was such an intimate venue, too. Like, you felt like they were just, like, vibing with you personally.
Yep.
Anyway, back to Ensiferum. And Wintersun. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Both formed Helsinki, Finland.
Yep.
Let's see. Could you say that Wintersun was active for 9 years at this really? Or?
I think just because you wrote music doesn't mean you had a project. I feel like those are different things. And like he wrote Sadness and Hate with the band he was in prior to Ensiferum.
Oh yeah, Immemorial?
Something like that, yeah. So I would say, I mean, it depends. Are you going to say Wintersun is a solo project? If so, then I guess as long as you're writing music, you're a solo project in some strange way. But I don't know. I would say Wintersun started in 2003.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Ensiferum, 1995. Ensiferum, one prior release in 2001. Their self-title. No prior releases for Wintersun, obviously.
Nope.
Because they only formed because Jari got kicked out of or left, was instructed to leave, depending on which article you're reading.
Yeah.
So release date for Ensiferum was May 17th, 2004, and for Wintersun was September 13th, 2004. That's 4 months.
That's a lot of good music to come out within a 4-month span of time.
That is a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Do you remember if I ever told you this. When I started working at Chase, after I was there a couple months, Jari, in like an interview or something on his website, like talked about how the computer blew up, his hard drive.
Oh, yeah.
And he couldn't record music. So I sent him an email like, I'll buy you a hard drive. Tell me where to mail it. Just let me have whatever the next album is, Time 1. Which it would have been, but
yeah.
I love
that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
More than one person must have done that, because they didn't end up crowdfunding Time 1. They ended up crowdfunding the other one, didn't they? The Forest
the bad
Seasons or
one.
whatever.
I guess not the bad one. It's just there's a certain bar Time 1 set that was like almost unachievable otherwise, right. But yeah, they crowdfunded it. It got like $1.5 million and ended up building a facility.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so mad when I can't remember what it's called. 4 Sessions, is that what you said?
I think so.
4 Seasons, excuse me.
4 Seasons.
4 Seasons. When that came out, I was like, no one has that. Like pop bands have facilities, quote unquote. And it's like, and this is what you followed Time 1 with? Like, I know there were issues with the label and copyright, and like apparently Time 2 has been done since Time 1, just they broke away from their label and couldn't get the rights.
The old Taylor Swift baggage.
Exactly. So I wonder what happened with that. I hope this is the same Time 2 that's coming out, and I hope it's not different and he just figured it out. Seems like the metal record label world is a little less harsh to deal with than the Taylor Swift world of things.
Yes, I hope so.
So no, I do too. But yeah, so Ensiferum, 95. It's a long time.
That is a long time. This is 9 years, a second album, so kind of a long time between albums. Well,
yeah,
no, not long time to the
3
first
years between
album.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because really, I don't think they did anything else before that. So kind of odd.
Couple of demos. It seemed like, well, you could probably make the argument, and a lot of people allude to this in a couple of the reviews that I could find, is like, this is like Viking metal. It's folk metal. And that was kind of becoming, or had been for a little while, a big thing in Helsinki, Finland. So
yeah,
you really have to stand out from a certain aspect if you're going to be picked up by a label or be recognized at all.
True enough. And really, at the time, I'm sure there are other bands doing that at the time, but the oldest I know is Bathory, because they switched from straightforward black metal to making arguably, if not inarguably, the first quote-unquote Viking metal album.
Nice.
At least they're given that credit. I would give them that credit as well. It's forever ago, and they started doing that. But so yeah, I mean, go figure. Scandinavia just knows what's going on with metal. I don't know. They're crushing it over there.
They sure were. Still are.
Yeah.
So Wikipedia has the genres for this listed as folk metal, power metal, and melodic death metal. Can you weigh in on the melodic death metal?
I would, yeah. I think as soon as you add like blast beats and like the skank beat and everything that, at the gates was just constantly doing on every song. Yeah, I get the melodic death metal vibe. Yeah, okay. I get it. But I would never. I would always call it folk metal. I mean, that's where I would land on.
Yeah.
Any of these bands that I was describing. Not that everyone needs to know what that means, I guess. But if you do, then you would probably disagree if I called it anything else.
Right. So, you mentioned that you've got a cheat sheet for how to pronounce these dudes' names at least moderately appropriately. Why don't you run through the band members, because I am not going to. I can get Marcus and Oliver.
And I think Marcus is Marcus,
I'm sure
Oliver
it is.
Oliver. But we're not going to worry about that because I am going to say Marcus and I am going to say Oliver. But
and it's Michael Ackerfeld.
Is it Michael Ackerfeld?
No, it's Mikhail Ackerfeld, or
I don't know if I've ever. It's Michael Ackerfeld.
Yeah, I've heard someone specifically make fun of like, oh, and if you're an American, it's Michael Ackerfeld. Dick.
Like, man, they're not wrong though. And
I'm
I'm
my
gonna do
best
that
over
to this
here.
band. But yeah, so on vocals and guitars, we've got Jari Maenpaa.
Final album, Fired.
Yep, final album, Fired, goes on to arguably make a better band. Anyway, on guitars, and this seems to be like the guy
It is the guy
from the get-go and continues to be the guy. Marcus, which I do think it is Marcus, don't come at me, but I'm not saying it again. Toivonen. Marcus Toivonen on guitars, backing vocals, and shaman drum apparently on this album, which that's cool. We've got Mayu Inho
Damn it.
on keyboards.
I was going to say Maiju.
Yeah. Well,
this was his first album.
Why would you say that? It's got a J in it, so let's call it Mayu.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that essentially Matthew?
It seems like it, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
or Mayhew. Mayhew.
Yeah.
Let's go with Mayhew.
Yeah. And then on bass, which this is just, I mean, when your first name's Jucka, which it's not, it's Yuka. Yuka, Pekka, Miettinen.
Okay.
Yuka, Pekka, Miettinen on bass.
His final
There you
album
go.
as well.
Yep. And huge upgrade on the bassist on Victory Songs. That guy.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's strange to think of the biggest like addition to your band being a bass player. I don't mean any disrespect to bass players. It's just in metal, you either super stand out or you just really, really don't.
Right.
But this dude came in playing like a 5 or 6 string bass with fingers and shreds and just really good. The next guy that is. And then finally on drums, yes, I'm going to say Oliver. Yes, I know it's Oliver or something. Folkin, which is
Oh, nice.
Folkin, tell me about it.
It's a Folkin good time. I'm glad we both went there.
Yeah.
This was his final Folkin album too.
Another huge upgrade on Victory Songs. Their rhythm section really just went from like a admittedly already good rhythm section, but just turned up to 11 on Victory Songs. Both those dudes just crush it. But he's got drums, percussion, bombo, which I don't know what that is, a tinja, Tinja, I also don't know what that is, and tambourine.
What the fuck's a shovel flange?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Nailed it.
Is anyone over the age of 30 and remembers Newgrounds? Wasn't that what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a section of the internet that I hope died.
I don't think it may have.
No, but it just changed to 4chan and kept going.
Yeah.
Gross.
We should talk about the album, though, at some point.
Yeah, let's do that. So, as far as... So, we talk... This comes up a lot, and I guess it's just the nature of the genres of music that we are listening to and reviewing for the podcast. But it's got an intro.
It does. A very long one, I'll say.
It is long, but I do love the suspense it builds up for Iron. Because when Iron comes in, I'm almost lulled into I'm not bored, but like I'm not expecting Iron. You know, with the da-da-da-da. Yeah, so track 2, Iron. But I think as far as intros go, it's pretty solid. It could probably be like 2.5 minutes instead of 3.5 minutes. But
yeah.
It doesn't bother me as much as some of the other intro weird tracks that we've listened to.
Interesting, but that's good.
Yeah. And again, is that because if it was on another album, I'd say the same thing? Probably not. No. It's because it's this album, and this album means a lot to me. So I I know Iron's coming, so the intro could probably be like 7 minutes long, and I would just spend 7 minutes being like, yeah, we're going to get Iron soon.
Iron's next.
Yeah. Yeah. Ferrum Aeternum for the intro, and then you go into Iron, which, in my world, one of the most iconic folk metal songs of all time. Like, that's what I think about when I think of folk metal, by and large.
I don't even think that's arguable. I think it probably just is factually one of the most iconic.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as... And oddly enough, it's probably between Iron and Sword Chant, and they go right into one another.
They sure do, and they go together well.
Very, very well. Damn, what a 1-2 punch those two tracks are.
Yeah. I will say, I didn't need an interlude after that. I could have handled some more music.
Yeah, here's what I said, actually. Do you need an interlude 3 songs into an album? Question mark. One that isn't even long? Question mark. When one of the 3 tracks are an instrumental intro? Question mark. No. Do I love it in how it goes into the next track, though? I do. I think you could have moved it down, probably. But it's a minute and 20. It's pretty and goes into Tale of Revenge very well.
It is. And it does.
At track
Tale
5,
of Revenge. Yeah. Tale of Revenge is great.
Very good song. And you're getting a lot of what Jari can do in that one. Well, you're getting it kind of along the way. You get to Sword Chant where he starts doing like the 80s power metal vocals, which he's better than any 80s power metal vocalist at.
Right.
It's stupid. The guy is just so fucking good at everything.
I actually had noted, like, this is probably the closest to Wintersun so far on the album. So, like, the first 4 tracks stick pretty close to that folk metal. And once we get to Wintersun, like, so I actually listened to them in reverse, like an idiot. I started with Wintersun and then went back to... And I know we talked about it, and you said you started to do that and then switched. I didn't switch. Yeah. I didn't bail out.
Yeah, I got like a minute into the first song on Wintersun and realized, like, I don't think I'm going to get the same effect this direction that I will the other. So, yeah, I switched. But you're right. I would say...
Ensiferum, like, definitely feels more like Jari's playing in a band, if that makes sense.
Yep, I agree. And you're right. I agree too that Tale of Revenge is like they're messing with more things than like, because I would say the most folk metal song on the album, like the capital F folk song on the album, is Sword Chant for me. It's just got all the stuff. And by the way, if you haven't heard the song Sword Chant, man, the chorus, I guess, even though there really aren't any vocals on it until it repeats later, but that is such it. Like, I don't know if I'm going to say Sword Chant is my favorite song. We'll get to that later. But that part might be the best part. One of on the album.
It's definitely solid.
God, it's good. But yeah, Tale of Revenge has a little more mood, a little more depth, a little bit. So, yeah, I agree with you. That sounds... Who did the writing on that? Was that him? Tale of Revenge,
yeah.
Oh, no,
he's
that
listed
was...
as the writer for all of them.
Well,
I don't know the lyrics.
Toivonen wrote Tale of Revenge. That's interesting. I'll go figure. Jari wrote Sword Chant. That proves I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
though I do agree with you that that it does have more of a Wintersun feel than the rest of it. But what do you think about track 6? It's totally different than everything else. Well, track 10, Tears, being the most different, but track 6, Lost in Despair.
Yeah. I had... Maybe I got these out of order, but I had, like... And back to folk metal. I said it might be one of my favorites, though.
Oh, Lost in Despair?
Yeah.
No, it is really good. It's the slowest song on the album. Again, we'll get to track 10, Tears, in a minute. Not in a bad way or anything. It's completely in opposition to the rest of the album. But But yeah, Lost in Despair is good. It's a lot slower, but I think it's in a good spot, like kind of in the middle, and then you get to the heaviest song on the album, track 7, Slayer of Light.
Which is sick. It's thrash as hell. I like that a lot.
Actually, in my notes, I called it Slayer of fucking Light, bitch. 'Cause that's how much I like that song.
That pretty much sums it up, yeah.
Yeah, it does, and it's in all caps. And my first note, all caps as well. Read the lyrics to this song. If any of you are listening along with us at all, or if you're just familiar with this and you don't read lyrics, I have known the lyrics to both these albums for quite a long time. I did reread them for this, so I went full at it with the lyrics, which, like, it's so Jari writes the lyrics on both albums. Yeah. There might be an outlier on Iron, but for the most part, he writes the lyrics. But it's like, if you go from Ensiferum, it sounds like Jari is like living in a medieval castle, writing songs to rally men to battle, or he was drunk from ale coming from a wooden stein in a pub during the Crusades or something. And I think that's what he's doing. Then you get to Wintersun, and it sounds like he ate a bunch of mushrooms and walked into like a snow-capped forest and just lived there for a year, being part of nature. Like, and it's wild that within 4 months, the same guy wrote lyrics to both these albums, and they're nothing alike. Like, there are moments where there's a little bit of crossover, but I can't recommend the lyrics to. We'll get to Wintersun in a minute, but read the lyrics to Slayer of Light. They're just so fucking sick.
That's funny. I didn't get to mention this, or I didn't think of it when we did the Slipknot album, but I saw an interview with Corey Taylor on Larry King, of all things. I think he interviewed him a couple of times. I think they genuinely enjoyed speaking to one another, but he was talking about like being in Slipknot versus Stone Sour, and he's like, oh no, I always know when I'm writing for one versus the other. Like, there's really no crossover. So I'm sure that's probably like a similar situation here. Like, you know what you're writing for when you're doing multiple things.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're different creative outlets.
Yeah, and different musical directions. I mean, there's some folk stuff on Wintersun. You can tell that is just a thing he does, but it's a very different album. But man, the lyrics, Slayer of Light, so good. The song is just, and like, you hear that first riff, that is like some of the tightest guitar playing I've ever heard, and like, it's an easy sounding riff, but you go try it. If you play guitar, go try to play that as clean as they're playing it on there. And if you do it, email the podcast so we can maybe start a band and have two very good rhythm guitar players, because
there you go.
That's what that would be. But it's hard. I learned it while I was after I was done listening to it. It's very difficult to get that clean. And something about, well, we'll get into it. We get to production anyway. Into Battle, track 8. Yeah. What did you think about that?
It was pretty sweet. This is where I was starting to kind of fade on the album a little bit, like, but there's some like harmonized bits of solo, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very folk metal.
Yeah. 9. I just had okay for Lili Hey.
You know what's funny? I don't love Lili Hey, but when it gets to like the drunk sounding chant part, like, take a drink of a beer. If you haven't had a beer in a while because it's not your thing, drink it while you listen to that. Maybe you'll like it more because it really goes hand in hand. But I like that part. I mean, obviously, I always find it cool when it seems to be Scandinavian bands that do it more often than not, but they put their native language in a song. Even though I don't know what they're talking about, it's cool to just hear that. Like Dimmu Borgir does that, and a lot of bands from those countries do. So that's kind of cool that there's some Finnish. But yeah, track Lili Hey didn't need to be 7 minutes long.
No. And then honestly, Tears didn't need to happen at all.
So I don't love Tears, but the fact that it starts with a bonfire sound,
that threw me off. I had my headphones on and I was like, what the fuck?
it helps me enjoy the song a little more because it makes me think of, again, people in medieval times stopping on the side of the road for the night and someone's doing the fireside song for entertainment sort of thing.
You can put yourself there a little bit.
Yeah, so it did help me put me in the mindset of that song, but no, it doesn't need to be there. And her voice isn't even particularly good. Like, it's fine. It's like a C+.
Suck it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, that's Ensiferum Iron. Great album overall, though. I do think, you're halfway through Lili Hey, you're probably fatigued a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get to. Did you read reviews on this?
There was only one from AllMusic, and it was it was pretty standard. They say like, these guys do folk metal very well in a sea of people who do folk metal. They stand out for some reasons. 4 out of 5 was the review.
That's not bad. That's probably about right.
You know what I grabbed though? Like, I thought overall, like, I don't know why, but my mind was like, I could see like this being a precursor to like bands like Necrogoblicon.
Oh yeah, and like, but you know what's weird? Necrogoblicon's strangely old. They've been around for a lot longer than you think. Did you hear their vocalist quit or
no?
Something? Like he's not in the band anymore.
Interesting.
They got like a known dude from another band that I can't think of now. And John, what's the goblin's name?
I don't know.
Like John Goblicon? John something?
Wallaby darned.
Well, he's one of 2 vocalists now. Yeah, which is...
Ryan would know.
John Goblicon. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, very odd, though. I honestly... Anyway, I don't need to get off on that tangent right now. There's no reason for it. But yeah, so we follow, excuse me. Oof. That could be misconstrued for me being a douche. That was an accident. My bad. Oh, boy. So we follow Jari Maenpaa's journey here and go straight to, again, his next band that started just a year prior in Wintersun. Again, band maybe in quotation marks at this point because it was really just him and a drummer.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, like you said, I can't believe he wrote some of that in 1996. Like, if that's
bonkers.
true, which I have no reason not to believe it, it's just, that's so far ahead of, I mean, it was ahead of its time anyway in 2004.
Yeah, for it to be Sleeping Stars of all songs.
Yeah. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. But you got Wintersun, another eponymous album, self-titled. Coming in at 54
album
minutes.
Eponymous for Christmas. Yeah, super dumb.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
One pretty big contrast from the one album to the next. Ensiferum Iron coming in at 43 minutes 31 seconds. Wintersun coming in at 54 minutes and 9 seconds. That is a hefty thing. And it's pretty easy to know why once you get to like track 4 and it's 7 minutes long, track 5 7 minutes long, track 6 7 minutes long.
Interestingly enough, one of the reviews actually touched on this, and I've never caught it before, but the tracks get longer throughout the CD. Like, they are in ascending order of time. And I think that's a really interesting compositional choice for an album. Yeah,
and I noticed it because I type out the song length in my notes for each one, and I actually in my notes say, oh, I never realized that this album, every song is just getting longer.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And knowing this guy's talent and his brilliant mind, I guarantee you that was on purpose.
Had to be, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't even know what to say about this album. I legitimately don't have a single negative thing.
I mean, there's not a lot to say.
No, it's for me, the most important album of my life is Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth, because it got me into metal at 9 years old. But like Wintersun, this album, even though I think objectively almost you can say Time One is better, maybe, I don't know. You can have the argument.
I think there's some subjectivity in there.
Yeah, but this album is just, it's my favorite album of all time. It's like when you get, like, it starts off strong, Beyond the Dark Sun, track 1, quick in and out, 2 minutes, 38 seconds, fast as shit, doesn't slow down for a second.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about that, like, I've always thought the drums on this album are super creative. Like, Kai is an amazing drummer. He writes really well to complement the guitars. And, like, so whereas Ensiferum, where Iron was all, like, you know, just straight up double bass and gallops, you know, because folk metal, this is just blast beats straight on through, but with a lot of creativity.
The stuff he does in his cymbal work, if you really pay attention to how much he's in the same beat, changing from a ride to a hi-hat based on what the guitar's doing, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't even... Especially for a dude I had never even heard until this album. And I'm like...
Right.
I mean, he had been doing stuff forever. But my God, it's just fucking... They couldn't have matched more perfectly as a music pair. But 2 minutes, 38 seconds, track 1, then 5 minutes, 8 seconds, track 2. Yes, it gets longer, but it got way longer from 1 to 2.
That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. Winter Madness, track 2. This has a little more of a folk undertone to me. But
it's great.
It's just immediate. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, when we started talking about this before we started recording, it's like I have so much to say, but I almost don't need to say any of it. Like I have like 4 pages of notes for 8 songs. Like I have a lot to point out, but it's like it's just so good the
just
whole
listen
time.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just, man. Yeah, if you're into metal, extreme metal specifically at all, and you've never heard this, I mean, maybe that's weird. I don't know, but if you haven't, I'm so jealous if you get to go have that experience for the first time, because again, I don't really know what else to say. When you get through track 3, Sleeping Stars, completely different than the other 2 songs,
which I love. In contrast to Iron, I love that they slowed this down now.
Yeah,
like compositionally, the albums are arranged pretty similar if you like compare and contrast them. But like this just does it better. Like this was a great place to slow things down. You've got 2 bangers right before that, and not a 3-minute folk intro.
Right. Well, that's probably the biggest difference is Beyond the Dark Sun. There is nothing intro about it. It starts immediately.
Yes, it does.
And then it's 2 minutes and 38 seconds of just blistering, incredible metal. Yeah, Sleeping Stars is a perfect spot for it. It's just that drum roll to the tremolo coming in at the beginning is just... It gets me every time. It's been, I heard it for the first time in 2007. It never gets old.
I love the little, like, Egyptian-y skip. It's just great.
Yeah. And it's just so... And the way he ping-pongs on that track from, like, clean vocals and harsh vocals is just so well done. It is
very
crazy.
Well done.
And then also, if you didn't notice, next time you listen to it, anyone out there, listen to Kai, the way he drums at the end. He's purposely hitting his snare on the wrong spot. And it's so cool. And it's like, it's wrong, but like, there's no way he's doing it by accident. No. He's too good. So it's like he's choosing to hit the snare on a spot that makes no sense whatsoever. And it's Really cool. And then you get to the first of the big guys, Battle Against Time at 7 minutes and 3 seconds.
Damn.
Man.
I've always loved the way the riff changes in this intro. Like, you pointed that out to me. Like, it's a simple-ish riff, but the way it just morphs and shifts throughout the intro, so good.
So good. I actually pointed that out in my notes, too. It's like he's playing an At the Gates in Flames riff. Like, we all know what riff I'm talking about. You know what I mean? But it's like where he's hitting his unpalm muted notes starts to change rhythmically to be on, like, up notes rather than down notes. And it's like, I just remember that blowing my mind. It's such, like you said, it's a small thing, but it's so impactful. Because I didn't see it coming. So good. This is all I am going to do the rest of this. Like, oh, God, this song's just so good. Like, nothing about this feels 7 minutes long either. Like, when it's over, it doesn't feel like taxing in any way, shape, or form. God, it's crazy. Crazy. Because then you've got 2 more 7 minute long songs after that.
Hell yeah.
Death and Healing at track 5, Star Child at track 6.
Amazing. Death and Healing, slowing it down again. Another really good place for it. Same place as the other album slowed things down. It just does it better.
Does it better, yeah. And this is the first track, Death and Healing, where you hear his obvious love of, like, Eastern music, which is way more prevalent on Time 1. I mean, it's...
Yeah,
there are parts on Time 1 that makes me think I'm sitting back at, like, China Buffet. You know what I mean? Like, in a really cool way.
Japanese influence, but Eastern. But altogether,
Eastern influence, so that's the first time I think you hear that really on the album, and it comes up a couple more times as the album goes on, but Death and Healing is just super good. Again, it doesn't feel like you just listened to a song for 7 minutes, in my opinion. It just is exciting the whole time, and I think that's what's so special about this album, because in any other album we've listened to, I'm looking right at you, Darkest Hour. If I got to a track 6 and I'm hitting my third 7 minute long song in a row, I'm starting to get worried that I'm gonna want to stop. But then you get to track 6 here for me on Star Child, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's a little longer. That's just more time for him to do cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does. It's so varied.
Yeah. It's so very... It's got a theme throughout, but it is just... Yeah. It's so dense and with musicality, and nothing ever gets boring or is overplayed.
It's where he started to like showcase that whole like classical composition and like movements and acts and things like that within a song.
Yeah. Well, and like with Star Child, I didn't know that it was broken up into 5 sections lyrically.
I had no idea either.
Nope. And then you listen to it with, and again, this is what we're 20 years after it came out, 17 years after I listened to it for the first time, and I learned something new, and it made me appreciate a song I already like. I think Star Child, we'll get to our favorite songs. That's not what I'm saying here, but I think almost objectively, Star Child is the best composition. It's beautifully done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, Fall Like a Burning Star. What a great, just everything about it. Super good.
Like a burning star.
Yeah. I don't want to beat a dead horse, I guess. Like, Beautiful Death's incredible. It's 8 minutes long. Doesn't feel like 8 minutes long.
Nope.
I just don't have a whole lot to add. Then you're at the end at Sadness and Hate, which is
still great.
Just a roller coaster of emotion, and just, I mean, 10 minutes goes
10
by.
Minutes.
Like, yeah. And the way it ends almost sets up a perfect re-listen.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And it's like, yeah, that's when it's that song and that reason that the first Behold Eternity album that we recorded, the intro and the outro are exactly the same.
Loop
because, yeah, when I realized, like, because I turned this on again as soon as it was over because of the ending. Because it makes me just go, oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks for leading me right back into where I want to be, which is the beginning of this album, so I can listen to it again. Yeah, I don't know how much specific stuff you want to add, just that it's just so good.
It is so good. It might be like something we talk about in the production, but also like his vocals are better, stronger, more varied, like just way more advanced on this album compared to 4 months prior.
Oh yeah, and the singing especially
on that. Yeah.
No, I guess other than maybe the comfort of recording at your home, which I know they recorded it, Wintersun at multiple different places, but I didn't realize Jari's just recording shit on a 16-track recorder at his house.
Hell yeah, man.
I know, it's so sick, but it's like, what does this guy not do? He
doesn't play drums.
Yeah, that's it. He's a master class on metal vocals, though. Like, I know very few, actually, and we'll talk about this more next week, but I would say maybe Danny Filth, but Danny Filth can't sing like this. Like, I mean, he's got a crazy range and all that, and he is another master class in that, but like, and I think, too, when you get to, well, I mean, hell, let's just jump into, might as well get into the review at this point. I don't know how long everyone wants to hear me go, Wintersun is good. But
all day, every day.
Let's get to the review. Yeah. How do you want to approach this? So we'll start with artwork like we always do. Do you want to run through all of them for each? Do both in each section?
We'll do both albums for the same topic. Kind of compare and contrast, if that makes sense. So we'll do the album artwork for Iron and then Wintersun.
Okay.
Which I'm curious, because it's both done by the same guy.
The guy.
Christian
Let me tell you something.
Wallen? Necrolord. Sick.
Necrolord, yeah. It's Valin.
Of course
I did my research on that guy's name, too. Well, yeah, you go ahead and you can let me know what you're thinking on the artwork.
So I'm not going to, like, dance around it too much. I gave both of these a 5. And I don't have a really great reason for doing that, and I don't have a reason not to give it a 5. Like Ensiferum, it's well set up, it kind of gives you a clue as to what the album is. There's a lot of bodies in it, so it makes it like this epic thing. There's some blood running down the stairs. Mm-hmm. It's got the logo. Coincidentally, the logos are both by the same guy. Not the album artwork guy, but a different guy for Ensiferum and Wintersun. And then, like, it's got some expansiveness in the background, so it's got, like, a sense of scale to it while still focusing on this main character, this sword-bearing character, which coincidentally is what Ensiferum means, sword-bearing.
Sick. I did not know that. That's really cool. Wow, how appropriate. Unbelievably appropriate.
So, definitely, like, strong 5.
Yeah.
And then, so for Wintersun specifically, it doesn't have that sense of vastness. Like, it's much more focused on this central character. Like, even the number of trees that's put into the composition seems intentional to, like, you see the forest way in the background, but then you get this more sparse kind of arrangement of the trees. You've got the obvious giant winter sun, and then there's this warm red thing on the right, and then the single body in the snow that kind of looks like Jari. And then a couple of other mounds of snow, so you're like not sure, are those other bodies? Like, what's under those? So I love both of these for different reasons. They're both so appropriate for the music that they go with.
Yeah. I honestly don't have anything to add. I don't think. I mean, it's 5 for me for both too. So I already knew going in, objectivity was going to be tough.
Right.
It did not. It doesn't help that Christian Wahlen did it, because I like every album art that I've ever seen by him. I mean, you got Dissection, Storm of the Lightbane. You got Emperor in the Nightside Eclipse. You got At the Gate, Slaughter of the Soul. Black Dahlia Murder has a couple albums. Nocturnal and Nightbringers, arguably their best album covers. My favorite album covers for sure. He did multiple Bathory albums like we talked about, and I love everything he does. I always would rather an album art be actual artwork rather than some weird digital, like photoshopped looking thing. You know what I mean? Like, and again, we'll talk about it next week. Like, because just some inside baseball, we were gonna, we were gonna do Cradle of Filth this week, but we'll be doing that next week. But like, I just don't. I'm just not. I love it when it's just straight up artwork. Like, some dude painted art and he did it while listening to music that he understands, and the artwork matches. That
was a thing. Like, Jari gave him music to listen to and lyrics to go off of to inspire the artwork. So that's how you do artwork, folks.
Yeah, that's how he does all of his album covers. So it's like, that's why they always rule. Like, he's a metal dude making metal artwork. And yeah, it's just great. So yeah, 5 for me on both. Big fat.
Thank you, Emma Stone, for that bit.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Amazing. So let's dive into the production then, because I'm curious. Like, so there's some stuff to talk about here. I don't know how much I can say, though, weirdly. So I want you to kick it off.
All right. The first thing I'll say, there's something about the guitar tone on both. And now that I know that they recorded them both with Jari's 16-track, recorder, it's not weird that they're similar. They actually sound pretty much identically the same for me, but I think better mixed in Wintersun than in Ensiferum.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I even text Caleb, and I know he's a super busy dude. He hasn't got back to me because he knows way more about this than I ever will. But it's like, there is something about that guitar tone that's just, it sticks out in a weird way. Like in a punchy, maybe too much mid. It's not bad, but it's there, and it's hard to get past it a little bit. Like, I don't know what it is. I really can't put my finger on it. I've never been able to put my finger on it. It's the same thing on Wintersun, but Wintersun, that album is just, frankly, I think it's just wall to wall mixed better than Ensiferum Iron,
which is interesting because of who did Ensiferum.
Yeah, you would think it would be the opposite.
You would think that one guy would not do better than another guy.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but I can definitely say I like Wintersun more.
Agreed.
With the Ensiferum too, the synth sounds way more fake than the synth sounds on Wintersun. It doesn't sound as like 16-bit Nintendo-y as Iron does.
Right.
I showed, no kidding, this is very random, but I went into a party at Nick Morrow's when he was in college in Dayton in 2007. And I showed him the song Iron off of Iron because I was so pumped about it. He says, man, he's really just going for it, even with that super shitty synth sound, huh? And I was like, yeah, it is. And that's when it hit me. At the time, I don't know if I even cared, but I was like, oh, that is kind of bad. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't take me out of it or anything, but
it's not objectionable.
No, it's not. No, it's fine. I will say the then verse now part though, weird stuff aside, and very fake synth, which back then wasn't like, you couldn't just download a $20 synth pack like you can now, and it sounds incredible. But the then versus now part is more impressive to me, because even with the things I don't love about Iron, because I really don't have a lot, go figure, I don't have much bad to say about Wintersun. But I think they both hold up pretty well.
They do, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they sound like super dated or anything, but I don't know. With Iron, I would... God, I knew I should have tried to think these out before. I never do that, but this one I knew was going to be tough.
Yeah.
Oh, what are your thoughts on it, and what did you have that you maybe couldn't say?
No, I didn't know like what the difference was between Jari's vocals, honestly. So like, I don't think it's a production thing necessarily, but I will say overall Iron sounds a little older and maybe a little thinner. Wintersun is just robust, and I think that's just a product of the way that Jari produces and mixes things. He 10 tracks every single thing, so it just sounds robust and full, and everything is kind of there, and he mixes really well. So Jari did the production on Wintersun. Flemming Rasmussen did the production on Iron. And that's also the guy who did Metallica's Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. Like, so he's the guy who's responsible for some metal sound. Yeah. Especially in an iconic band like that.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah,
but saying that out loud just now, like, those albums, the production on them, like, it's very of the era. And I'm like, so, yeah. They don't hold up as well, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So I gave the production for Iron a 4, and I gave Wintersun a 5.
Yep. I feel exactly the same. I have no argument either way. Because, yeah, I mean, Wintersun, too, it just, like... It sounds... I mean, again, nothing is ever going to sound as good as it does in the time that you're listening to it, because technology's gotten better, things have gotten cheaper and easier, and all of those things. But it's like, it holds up, no doubt. So this next one, I don't know...
Let's reframe this for the purpose of this discussion and just call it impact at the time you heard it, and not when it was released.
So that's what I was going to ask. So in 2004, I listened to neither one of these albums.
Right.
So it would be a 1. Never heard of it. In 2007, that Wintersun changed how I wrote music completely. It changed how I approached vocal patterns. It changed how I approached writing music, and it changed how I looked at a song as a whole rather than parts to be put together. And like, it got me out of a depression. You know, like, it's like, so if I'm going off of, if we can go off of the impact at the time that we heard it, which, by the way, I mean, that might be cheating. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't care on this one. This one's too important, personally. So it's 5 on both. I mean, it can't be overstated how important, specifically Wintersun, but Iron too. I just heard Iron first before I heard Wintersun. But when I heard Wintersun, it was just like, it's like someone got in my brain and figured out exactly what I wanted out of music and put it out into the world, and I didn't even know that I had the feelings that I did. So, crazy.
Boom. Super crazy. So this is where I'm going to differ from you a little bit, because I know for a fact that I heard Wintersun first, and then, like, again, neither one in 2004. Like, didn't get into folk metal until, and probably of the 3 bands... between Ensiferum, Wintersun, and LVT, I'd probably say LVT was more impactful on me. And I'm going to call it Alluviatai because I like that better.
It is so much better. Oh my God.
So much better. But Wintersun was definitely probably more impactful, mostly because of Jari's songwriting. Like, I started to be able to, pick out different bits of a song and like really start to focus in on some of the more technical aspects of writing music and listening to music. And then Iron's just enjoyable to listen to. So
yeah,
but I probably didn't listen to it as much in that era even. So I gave Iron a 2 for impact at the time, and Wintersun still got a 5.
Sick. What a shocker. Wintersun coming in hard here, kids.
Hot.
So, I'll just get this out of the way. Enjoyed listening. My one note is get period, the period, fuck period, out period, of period, here period.
I know what I think.
I will say, though, I'm going to give Iron a 4. Because it does get a little fatiguing by the end. But Wintersun's getting a 5.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot of discussion points here. I also gave Iron a 4. It's enjoyable to listen to, and it's cool have it to compare and contrast against Wintersun, and also to listen to in its own right. And then obviously Wintersun gets a 5.
That is a perfect 40, folks, for Wintersun.
The second album to do that.
Mm-hmm. And Wintersun was getting a 40. I was not giving it anything else. I was giving it a 20. No doubt. Impossible. And I already came into this. I didn't know how you were going to feel about the 2007 part. But I already have it written down in my notes. Like, I'm fighting for this in this instance. Like, I may never fight for it again. And I think as we go on, it's going to be more and more rare for, other than like the emo, screamo stuff. A lot of the albums we're going to run into are probably albums we'd heard when it came out as we go on. But, yeah. Wintersun's
you were gonna make me give it a 20, weren't you?
No, I wasn't going to do that, but I was going to fight for the 07 thing. That was going to be my thing. I'm like,
I will die on this hill.
It was just unbelievable. I can't believe it still sounds so good, too.
I know.
It's still so much better than what people are doing right now. And for the production, this has almost been something I've said on multiple occasions. For bands like Lorna Shore like Shadow of Intent and bands that like are coming in with the orchestral stuff. I still would like to hear guitar. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. Both of those bands are great. I have nothing to say, but like sometimes, man, they're really drowning everything out. And all you hear is just orchestra and blast beats. Yeah. And that's cool, but go listen to Wintersun maybe and like figure out that there's a way to have it all come through. I mean, if this one dude in Finland in 2003, 2004 can do it, yeah. I don't know. It's always bothered me about the current bands doing that because, yeah. Yeah. I don't have much else to add, man.
Favorite song?
Okay. Hard for both for me.
Yeah, super hard.
I'm gonna, for Iron, say Slayer of Light.
Nice. Slayer of fucking Light, bitches.
Yep. Oh man. And then, well, what's your Iron? What's your Iron?
I went with Tale of Revenge. I just really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song, and it's just got a little bit of a different vibe. So
it does.
It was almost a 3-way tie. I mean, honestly, Iron and Sword Chant could both be it. Very easily.
You can listen to them all day, every day.
Yeah, Sword Chant being a song I've never stopped listening to, even if I don't listen to the whole album often. But what about Wintersun? Was pretty close to impossible for me. But what's your favorite song on Wintersun?
I think Death and Healing. I don't have a good justification for it. Like, it's slow, it's metal, it's all the things.
It's got so much. Like I said before, I think objectively, Star Child is like one of the best pieces of metal music. It's just so well done. I will say Battle Against Time.
Boom.
Every time that intro with the chant woes come in, and that is just 7 minutes of pure joy for me on that. So yeah, I'm glad we picked different songs. I like it when we don't like the same. Or have the same favorite. All right, well, folks, that is a lot of the same thing for an hour, probably.
Hey, if you haven't caught on by now, these albums are good. One's definitely better than the other, but they're both amazing.
Agreed.
So if you haven't checked out either one of them, definitely do that. Ensiferum, they kind of pick up a different sound and take on a different identity after Jari's departure. So give both a shot. Figure out if you like either one, because there's definitely a lot to love in all versions of both of these bands.
Yeah, agreed. Whatever similarities they had at the beginning, they did not have pretty quickly. Yeah. Time One sounds nothing like anything Ensiferum did. Victory Songs is one of like the most quintessential folk metal albums. So yeah, I didn't listen to Ensiferum's whole catalog. They were kind of like a monomart for me. Once you get you know what it sounds like.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but you know what it is.
All right, so I guess with that, he's been Brad, I've been Josh, and we were both 2 decades too late.